You know that moment. You meet someone, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe enough times that it would be embarrassing for the name to disappear again. They smile, extend their hand, and say it clearly. And then, somehow, it happens. The name is gone, not blurry, not half there, not resting somewhere in the back of your mind like a word you almost remembered. Gone. And the worst part is not even the forgetting itself. It is the tiny, awkward performance that follows. The nodding, the eye contact, the strategic delays, the frantic hope that someone else in the conversation will say it first, just once, so you can grab it before it vanishes into the ceiling. We have all had that moment. But if this happens to you a lot, if names seem to slip right through your mind while faces, stories, and details stay behind, that does not mean you are cold. It does not mean you are careless. And it definitely does not mean you are unintelligent. Something very specific may be happening in your brain. And once you understand it, you may stop treating yourself like there is something wrong with you. Let us start with the simplest version of the problem. When you meet someone new, your brain is already busy, very busy. It is tracking their expression, their tone, their posture, whether the conversation feels easy or tense, whether you are coming across well, whether you have already said something strange, whether they are bored, whether you are supposed to speak now or wait. All of that is happening at once. So when they say, "Hi, I'm Daniel," your brain is not receiving that name in a clean, empty room. It is receiving it in the middle of chaos. And Daniel, as a name, is strange in one very important way. It often means almost nothing by itself. It does not immediately connect to an image, a story, a smell, a place, or a strong memory. It is just a label, a sound, a tag attached to a human being your mind is still trying to map. That makes names weirdly fragile. Psychologists have looked at this for years. One of the most interesting ideas in memory research is that the brain does not store everything equally. It does not keep information because it is accurate. It keeps information because it is useful, or emotional, or connected, or repeated, or surprising, or meaningful in some way. A name, by itself, can be painfully easy to lose because it is often the least connected piece of the whole interaction. Think about what you remember from an important night years ago. You probably remember the feeling in the room, the pause before someone spoke, the look on someone's face, the sentence that hit you harder than expected. You probably do not remember every name that was said there. That is not because you were not paying attention. It is because your brain was busy storing the parts it considered important. And that leads to something a lot of people never say out loud. People who forget names often are not inattentive. They are often over-attentive, not to the name itself, to everything else. They are reading the room, reading the emotion, reading the tension, reading the meaning underneath the words. Their mind is working overtime to catch what is not being said. So when a name arrives, it gets 1 second of airtime before the whole system moves on. The name never gets a chance to settle. There is also a very human reason this happens more with some people than others. Some people are not living fully in the moment during social interactions. They are somewhere slightly ahead of the conversation. They are listening and, at the same time, rehearsing what they are about to say next. They are checking their face, monitoring their voice, measuring their own behavior. Am I seeming normal? Did I interrupt? Should I smile more? Was that joke too much? Do they like me? Did I just make this weird? That internal commentary can become so loud that the actual name gets pushed aside before it ever sticks. It is not a lack of care. It is a brain with too many tabs open. There is even a classic effect in psychology that helps explain this. When people are waiting for their turn to speak, their attention often shifts away from what is being said and toward what they are going to say next. In other words, the mind starts stepping into the future while the present is still happening. And once that happens, details begin to leak. The name is usually the first thing to go. That is why chronic name forgetting is often less about memory failure and more about mental preoccupation. Your attention is not broken. It is divided. And honestly, that matters. Because the story people tell themselves about this habit is usually harsh. I'm bad with people. I'm rude. I don't care enough. I should be better than this. But forgetting a name is not the same as forgetting a person. Those are two very different things. In fact, the people who forget names the most are often the ones who remember the details that actually reveal how much they were paying attention. They remember the story about the sister, the job change, the strange comment someone made during dinner, the way a person's face softened when they talked about something painful, the exact moment the conversation changed. They remember the human part, just not the label. And that says something important about how memory really works. Memory is not a recording device. It is not a clean folder system where each person gets a perfect file with their name written across the top. Memory is more like a living network. It holds impressions, feelings, fragments, patterns, associations. It chooses what to keep based on what seems relevant at the time, which means the things that feel emotionally charged, visually distinct, or deeply connected are far more likely to survive. A name can be incredibly important socially, but to the brain, importance and memorability are not always the same thing. That is why some people can tell you exactly what someone was wearing at an event 2 years ago, where they were standing, and what they said that hit a nerve, but still blank on the name. Their brain was cataloging the scene, not the label. And that is not a defect. It is a style. A lot of these people are highly associative thinkers. Their minds organize information through meaning, not through raw labels. They store context beautifully, emotion beautifully, texture beautifully. They tend to notice atmosphere, subtext, and the way one detail connects to another. That can make them incredible listeners. It can make them deeply perceptive. It can make them the kind of person others feel understood by. Sometimes, without even knowing why. But it can also make something as mechanically simple as remembering a name surprisingly difficult. Because a name is not a story, it is a tag. And the brain often prefers story. So here is the part that matters most. If you forget names easily, that does not automatically mean you are disinterested in people. It does not mean you are socially inept. It does not mean you are missing some fundamental part of being a thoughtful human. It may simply mean your attention goes somewhere else first. That is all. And once you know that, the shame starts to lose its grip. Because shame loves a false explanation. Shame says, you forgot the name, therefore you forgot the person. But that is not true. You remembered the conversation. You remembered the feeling. You remembered the context. You remembered the person as a whole, just not the one detail your brain had the hardest time pinning down. And of course, there are ways to improve this. You can repeat the name right away in conversation. You can connect it to something visual. You can pair it with an association your brain already knows. You can use the name again a few moments later so it has a second chance to land. These work because they create structure where there was none. They give the name a hook. They stop it from floating around as an isolated piece of sound and attach it to something your mind can actually hold on to. But maybe the bigger shift is not a memory trick. Maybe it is a self-respect trick. The next time this happens, do not immediately assume you are failing as a person. You are probably not. You are likely just a person whose mind is moving fast, scanning deeply, and trying to make sense of the room while one small piece of information slips through the cracks. That is human. That is normal. And if anything, it may be a sign that your brain is busy with the parts of people that matter more than a name tag ever could. Because names are not the whole person. They are only the thing we use to point at them. The real memory is everything else. The laugh, the tension, the warmth, the story, the look in their eyes when they said something true, the feeling they left behind. That part stayed. That part usually stays. So, no. You are not uncaring. You are not absent. You are not secretly broken because a name went missing for a few seconds under pressure. You are a person with a mind that prioritizes meaning over labels, connection over filing systems, and presence over performance. And honestly, that is not a weakness. That is just a different kind of intelligence. If you found this useful, there are more ideas like this to explore in future videos. And if this kind of deep human psychology speaks to you, subscribe so you do not miss what comes next.